Welcome to your darkest fears, where nightmares begin. Story 1. The Last Ride. There are moments in life when a single choice can fracture your entire existence. A choice you can never take back. For Michael, it was a late-night decision that would haunt him for the rest of his days. A night when the road blurred beneath his tires, and a best friend's life slipped away in an instant. This is the story of Michael and the ghost that would not let him forget. The night had started like any other Friday. The laughter, the music, the warm glow of street lamps reflected in the puddles on the asphalt. Michael remembered how easy it was to say yes to one more drink. Just one more, he told himself. It wouldn't hurt. But it did. He could still see her face. Claire. Bright-eyed, smiling, her hair catching the streetlight like a halo. She'd insisted on riding home with him that night, despite knowing how many drinks he'd had. "I'll be your eyes," she joked. But Michael knew it was more than that. She trusted him. He had failed her. The crash was sudden, brutal. The sound of metal twisting, glass shattering, the world spinning out of control. When he opened his eyes, the world was quiet except for the distant wail of sirens. Claire was gone. Since that night, Michael's life had unraveled. The guilt gnawed at him, consuming every waking moment. He quit his job, pushed away family and friends. The nights were the worst, the silence screaming with memories. And then the haunting began. At first, it was small things. A whisper on the wind, the faint scent of her perfume in an empty room. But soon, it became impossible to ignore. Michael would see her, Claire, standing just beyond the edge of his vision. A shadow, a pale figure, always watching, waiting. He heard her voice calling his name, soft and sad, echoing through the darkness. Michael. Sleep became a stranger. Every night Claire's ghost would appear, replaying that terrible night in a loop of silent accusation. She never spoke of blame outright, but the pain in her eyes was a heavier punishment than any words. One night, Michael awoke to the sound of shattering glass. His heart pounding, he found the living room window smashed, the cold night air rushing in. And there she was, Claire, standing in the moonlight, her eyes filled with sorrow and something darker. A warning. "You didn't just take my life, Michael," she whispered. "You're letting your own slip away." Desperate for relief, Michael sought out therapy, support groups, even priests. Nothing stopped the ghost. One evening, he drove out to the crash site, a lonely stretch of highway lined with trees, where the accident had changed everything. He parked, staring at the mangled guardrail and cracked pavement, and spoke aloud to the night. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Claire. I can't live like this anymore." But the silence was the only answer. Just as Michael turned to leave, a chill crept over the air. Claire appeared, closer this time, her figure shimmering like a fading dream. "You don't have to live in this prison," she said, her voice barely more than a breath. "I'm not here to punish you." Michael shook his head, tears streaming down his face. "Then why? Why won't you leave me alone?" She reached out, her ghostly hand passing through his cheek like a cold breeze. "Because you need to forgive yourself. Because I need you to live. Not for me, but for yourself." From that night on, the hauntings changed. Claire's ghost was no longer a specter of blame, but a presence of peace. Slowly, Michael began to rebuild his life, going back to work, reconnecting with family, seeking forgiveness, not just from others, but from himself. The road to healing wasn't easy. The pain never fully disappeared. But the ghost who had once been a tormentor became a guardian of sorts. A reminder that even in darkness, redemption is possible. Sometimes, The ghosts that haunt us aren't the ones who died. Sometimes, they're the parts of ourselves we refuse to face. And sometimes, only by confronting those ghosts can we find the strength to live again. Michael's story is a painful one. A tale of loss, guilt, and ultimately, hope. Because even in the darkest nights, there is a chance for dawn. The end. Story 2. The Silent Watcher. Some things seem innocent enough. A dusty old toy tucked away on a yard sale table. A relic of someone else's forgotten past. But sometimes, what looks harmless hides a dark secret. This is the story of a man named David, and the stuffed animal that refused to stay still. David had never been one for impulse buys. But that Saturday morning, something caught his eye in the jumble of secondhand clutter. A faded stuffed bear, its fabric worn thin. One glass eye, missing. The bear sat quietly on a folding table, propped against a cracked porcelain doll. A little dirty, a little ragged, but with an oddly compelling presence. 30 cents, the old woman at the table said, smiling as David picked it up. Looks like it's been through a lot, but it's got a story. David smiled back. He didn't care about the story. It was just a cute toy. For nostalgia. For the rare feeling of comfort he hadn't felt in years. He bought it. That night, David placed the bear on his bedroom shelf, right where he could see it before going to sleep. The soft moonlight spilled over its faded brown fur. At first, everything seemed normal. But then subtle things began to happen. One morning, David woke to find the bear's head tilted slightly to the left. The night before, it had been facing forward. He chalked it up to him accidentally moving it, though he was sure he hadn't touched it. The next day, the bear was on the floor, far from the shelf. Again, David was certain he hadn't moved it. Unease crept in. Within a week, the bear's wanderings became impossible to ignore. David would enter his room to find the bear in different spots, sometimes on the bed, sometimes facing the door, sometimes slumped in a chair. One night, he swore he heard soft footsteps when the house was empty. Quiet, careful, like a small creature padding across the floor. And then, the bear was missing entirely. David tore through the apartment, heart pounding. Finally, he found it sitting in the kitchen, perched on the edge of the sink, its single glass eye gleaming under the fluorescent light. David tried to convince himself it was all in his head. Stress, lack of sleep, the isolation after his recent breakup. But the bear's movements weren't the only strange thing. Late at night, the air around the bear grew colder. Shadows seemed to gather near it, thickening, twisting. One evening, David sat on the couch, watching TV. He caught movement from the corner of his eye. The bear's head had turned fully toward him, as if watching. He froze. Haunted by fear and curiosity, David dug into the bear's past. He returned to the yard sale, but the old woman was gone, the house empty and boarded up. Neighbors whispered about the family who'd lived there. A single mother and her young son who'd vanished years ago without a trace. David searched online, finding an old news article about a tragic fire in that very house. The son had died inside, his belongings lost in the flames. The bear was likely his. After the discovery, the bear's behavior worsened. One night, David awoke to a chilling sight. The bear was sitting on the floor, eyes glowing faintly red in the darkness. A whisper echoed, soft, childlike, almost pleading. "Play with me." David's breath caught. He stumbled back, knocking over the bear. It hit the floor with a hollow thud. Silence returned. But the next morning, A message was carved into his bedroom door frame. "Don't forget me." Terrified, David called a paranormal investigator. The investigator confirmed David's fears. The bear was a vessel for a restless spirit, the boy's ghost, trapped and trying to communicate. David agreed to perform a cleansing ritual, hoping to free the spirit and end the haunting. That night, surrounded by candles and incense, David held the bear tightly. The room grew icy cold. The bear's glass eye glowed brighter than ever. A faint voice whispered, "Thank you." And then, silence. David felt a weight lift. The next morning, the bear lay motionless. David placed it gently in a box, ready to donate it to a museum, a place for lost memories, not restless spirits. He never heard the footsteps again. The cold spots vanished. But sometimes, late at night, when the wind howls just right, David swears he hears a soft giggle. A small boy at play, finally at peace. Not all toys are innocent. Some carry the echoes of lives cut short. Silent watchers in the dark, waiting to be seen, heard, remembered. And some, like the bear, never really stop moving. The end. Story 3. Backseat Passenger. There's something about driving at night. The way headlights carve through the dark like knives, the rhythmic hum of tires on pavement, and the empty roads that stretch on forever. It's peaceful for some, but for others, it's a descent into madness. This is the story of Adam, and the night he picked up a ghost who never needed a ride. It was past 2 a.m. when Adam left his sister's house, taking the long rural road home. He preferred it that way. Fewer cars, fewer distractions, fewer people. Just him, his truck, and the endless black ribbon of highway winding through the woods. The stars were dull behind thick clouds. The radio played softly, static buzzing between late-night stations. Nothing but miles of trees, telephone poles, and emptiness. But then, in the distance, movement. A woman was walking along the shoulder of the road. She came into view slowly, her figure barely illuminated by the headlights. White dress, barefoot, long hair hanging wet and limp over her face. Adam's hands tightened on the wheel. He slowed instinctively, watching her as he passed. Her head was down. She didn't look up. Something about her unsettled him. She didn't seem right. He kept going. 5 miles later, Adam's heart stopped. There she was again, walking. Same dress, same posture, same slow, dragging steps. His foot lifted from the gas pedal. His brain scrambled to rationalize it. It's a different woman. It has to be. But deep down, he knew. It was the same woman. He drove faster, hands clammy, eyes flicking to the rearview mirror every few seconds. There was nothing behind him. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching. He turned the radio off. The silence roared. He laughed nervously to himself, shaking his head. "You're tired, seeing things. That's all." He turned a bend in the road and slammed the brakes. She was in the middle of the street, just standing there, head down, arms limp at her sides. He swerved around her, tires screeching, heart pounding. In the mirror, she didn't move. She just stood, staring after him, though her face was hidden beneath her hair. He didn't stop driving, didn't breathe. Then came a sound, a soft rustling. From the back seat, Adam snapped his eyes to the mirror. Nothing there. He checked again. Still empty. He let out a shaky breath, forcing a laugh. Losing it, man. That's all this is. Then, faintly, behind him. "Are you going my way?" The voice was inside the car. Adam turned slowly. And there she was. The woman sat in the middle of the back seat, soaked, face still hidden, hands resting in her lap. Adam screamed and swerved violently. nearly veering off the road. "What the hell? Who? What are you?" She said nothing. The car was ice cold now, windows fogging. His breath came in shaky puffs. Did you sneak in? Back when I stopped?" Still nothing. He dared to meet her gaze in the mirror, but her face wasn't right. Pale, blurred. Her features seemed to shift in and out of focus, like smoke trapped in skin. She whispered again, "I never asked for a ride." Suddenly, the radio crackled to life. Static. Then a voice. "You left me there. You drove past me." The woman's mouth never moved. Adam gripped the wheel tighter, tears stinging his eyes. "What do you want from me?" Another whisper. "To go home." Adam slammed the brakes and jumped out of the car, stumbling into the middle of the road. He yanked open the back door. It was empty. No woman, no wet seat, no foggy windows, just silence. He looked around. Woods on both sides. No sign of her. He hesitated, then slowly climbed back in, locking the doors. 10 minutes later, he reached a gas station. The first sign of life in miles. He pulled up under the flickering lights, breathing hard, hands shaking. He leaned back, trying to calm down. The radio whispered again, "I'm still here." He spun and saw her face in the rearview mirror. Not in the seat. In the mirror. Her face filled the frame, expression hollow, eyes black as oil. She screamed. A bone-shaking, glass-cracking wail that shattered the mirror and plunged the car into darkness. When Adam came to, he was alone in the parking lot. The station was closed. The lights were off. His mirror lay in shards on the floorboard. There was no sign of the woman, but the passenger seat was wet. They say some ghosts linger near the roads where they died, waiting, wandering, searching for a ride home. But not all of them ask permission. So the next time you're driving alone at night and you see a woman walking with her head down, don't stop. And whatever you do, don't look in the back seat. The end. Thank you for watching this video to the end. Don't forget to like and subscribe.